Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Q&A session for Life Visioning in your 40s, 50s, and beyond with Michael Bernard Beckwith. In this 5-week video course, you're going to learn to activate the creative energies of divine mind through 4 energetic frequencies. I'm Ann Patricio. I'm the course manager and host for Life Visioning, and in today's Q&A, we'll be exploring Michael's teachings and address your questions about this upcoming video course, which begins on Tuesday, May the 7th at 12 noon Pacific. So a little later, I'll review all the details about the course, and I'll explain how you can participate even if you can't attend live with us. But first, I want to introduce and welcome my guest. Michael Bernard Beckwith is the founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center, which is a trans-denominational spiritual center in the congregation of, there's 9,000 members in this community. So he's written books and appeared in movies and taught courses and been interviewed by so many. Many of us know him, and he's even participated alongside the Dalai Lama. So Michael, he's also the creator of the Life Visioning process, in which he teaches all over the world through books, through seminars. And I have personally been learning from Michael for the past 20 years, and it's my honor to work with him to bring this course forward for the Shift Network. I'm looking forward to this conversation with him, and of course to the course that we will be offering coming up soon. Now, in a bit, I'm going to turn it over to your questions, where you'll be able to type them in and I'll read them out. But before we do that, I want to welcome Michael to the call and have him say hello and lead us in an opening prayer. Welcome, Michael. So nice to have you here.
Oh, it's my joy to be with you and all the people who are gathering to basically embrace the next stage of their own unfoldment. It's absolutely my joy. And so I guess at this time, for everyone who is watching, we can just turn within for just a brief moment, turning our attention away from the world of effects and circumstances and situations, and begin to rise into the frequency of gratitude and thanksgiving and appreciation that we exist. Rise in the feeling tone of thankfulness that we are alive. And in this vibration of gratitude, our perceptual windows become so clean and clear that we recognize that there is a presence that is never an absence, that is everywhere. Everywhere in its totality, which means it must be where we are. It is here that we begin to feel our oneness with this presence. And we allow ourselves to know that as this word is being spoken, divine and compelling right action is taking place in every area of our life. And that these few moments together are moments of insight and revelation, sincere aha moments that allow us to shift the trajectory of our life to more excellence, more beauty, more love, more prosperity, more health, wealth, and well-being. We accept this as our intention and as the vibration of the prayer that's being spoken now. Something wonderful is happening. And we'll get out of its way and allow that which is wonderful to take over and live itself as our best life. It's happening now, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Michael. So we're going to spend the rest of our time together exploring your questions for Michael in preparation for his video course, and that is Life Visioning in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The course begins on Tuesday, May the 7th, and if you want to check out our website, we encourage you to do so. You can learn all the details about the 5-module course and find the link to register. So please visit lifevisioning.com. That's lifevisioning.com. You'll see a full description there. And at the bottom of the page, the register link. So let's get started. If you have questions for Michael, please type them into the space, and we'll be happy to read them out. So we're going to begin with this question, Michael. So you've been teaching Life Visioning for many years, and why this course at this time? What's the call for you?
Well, we're at a stage in our development, one in the metaphysical movement, where people are yearning to go to the next level of their own unfoldment. And we've cut our teeth on visualization practices, creative imagination. We've become very adept at that. And so there's more of a collective call to go to the next level. And that is to go to the level where that which is happening universally can begin to become conscious of itself through us. So people are, they're asking for the next level of their own unfoldment. And many people have basically gone as far as they can go with the basics of metaphysics, which is visualization. And so this is the time to go to that next step individually and collectively. And I'm honored to be a part of that stream. I've been teaching. I was thinking about it the other day. I've been teaching publicly for 4 decades, and it's hard to believe for myself. But I've watched as this teaching was to move from the periphery to the central. It used to be on the periphery. Now it's central. People are growing up spiritually, maturing spiritually, and coming out of superstitious thought. They're coming out of religiosity and coming into a very mature understanding of a presence by which we get to participate in our own unfolding. So it's the time for us to really come to greater nuance about visioning and that type of thrust in our life.
Michael is asking, he's wanting to know, can you speak about the distinction between through me and as me?
Absolutely. There's a life presence. You can call this name, you can call the name of life, there's many names for it. People call it God, they call it life, they call it love, intelligence, beauty. And it's unaltered and untouched by time or human experience. So as we begin to prepare ourselves through spiritual technologies, this presence starts to operate through us. And as we go through the class, we'll talk a little bit about what is called, and many of you already know this, it's called the zone or flow. I call it flow motion, where something is operating through us. And though we have prepared ourselves, something takes over. Then the line of demarcation, the line of separation is erased at times, where that which is operating through us, we realize it is us. It's our, for lack of a better word, it's our higher self, it's our oversoul, but it's our very life. And there becomes moments where those lines of demarcation subside, and we realize that the innermost God, the innermost presence, and the uppermost presence is the same thing. It's our life. And so some people have this kind of reckoning, and it's like a nanosecond of, oh my God, it's me. And sometimes it's elongated, where people live in that state for longer periods of time. I've had the privilege of being in moments in which I was infused by the light of the presence, which was my very life and being. It extended itself, and there was no separation between me and the presence. And this is consciously. There's never a separation between you and the presence. But filters prevent us from seeing this. So when we talk about life through us or as us, the filters are being removed. And this is what spiritual technology is about. And this is what it means to participate in our own unfolding, to have such a moment.
Thank you. Chris is asking, can you speak to the element of risk and fear as we are transitioning to being pulled by the vision rather than pushed by the pain?
It's more risky to stay small than to be pulled by your vision. Think for a moment of a baby chicken growing in an egg. And in this egg, the chicken has all of its needs met. It has a protective shell, has a home. And so after a period of time, the sustenance runs out, the environment becomes polluted, and there's something calling the baby chick to go to the next level, into a world that it cannot see right now. And at a certain point, the instinctual energy within the chicken provides the context for it to begin to peck on the shell. And there becomes a moment where it becomes more risky to stay in the shell than to go into the new world. as it pecks, the shell breaks, the actual pecking allows for the neck to become strong, and it comes into a world that it couldn't even imagine before. So if you think about it like that, here we are in our little worlds of coping, defense mechanisms, sustenance to a degree. But there comes a moment where our little world becomes so polluted that we have to grow into the next world. And so the risk is, are we going to stay in our little world and die a slow death, agonizing, a life of quiet desperation? Or are we going to let go and go to a world that might be beyond our imagination right now, but when we step into it, it's bigger and better and brighter than what we could even imagine? So there's no risk in growing. The risk is in staying stagnant, remaining the same, and hoping that things get better.
Well, this question relates in a bit. Can you speak about flow? When we're doing the practices toward a specific vision, but there seems to be a trickle instead of a flow, how to know when to let go and when to persevere toward a dream, a desire, and a vision?
Mm-hmm. Well, you get no points in giving up. Surrender and acquiescing to a circumstance don't mean the same thing. I hear your question, I'm going to get to it. Surrender is surrendering to the next stage of your unfoldment. Giving up, acquiescing to circumstance, is just giving up, and you're not playing in the game anymore. So if you're being pulled by a specific vision, in the technology of visioning, you're actually getting signals as to where to grow, what gifts to cultivate, how to become more yourself so that you can be energetically big enough to live the vision that you're now beginning to articulate. So if in fact you're trying to get to point A, but you discover as you're going towards point A and you're growing and unfolding that there's actually maybe a point A-1 that's bigger than what you originally thought, or more coherent. It's more a level of coherence where you are than what you started out with. And so you make shifts. You know, every pilot knows that if you're flying from Chicago to New York or Los Angeles to Chicago, you have a destination in mind, but there's fluctuations of wind currents, weather, and you have to kind of move and shift and change in order to get where you're finally going. So in the same thing with the vision, you're being pulled by a vision, but you're being called to change and shift. There are nuances of growth, development, and unfoldment that take place. You end up getting to your destination. But the person that was trying to get to the destination in this technology is not the same person that arrives. Growth has occurred. So if we can always remember that when we're seeking to go into flow, they were actually seeking to grow. We're seeking to change. The person that arrives is not the same person that started out. So oftentimes the trickle is an indication that there's more room for us to grow and expand so we can get into flow motion, you see. I hope I'm touching upon what you're asking.
Yeah, I think you are. And I'm hearing you over these last answers speaking about the trust and the listening, the deep listening that it's taking to stay dynamic with it. So we're navigating where we might be called to next. So thank you for
absolutely. Absolutely. The process is about what I call reverential alertness. It's a reverential attentiveness that we are cultivating. Now, in the class, I explained to a degree about how the faculty of listening has actually a lost art in our world. People are very activated in saying what they want to say or describing the world they want to live in to a degree, but the faculty of listening has been lost. And so in growth, development, and unfoldment, we have to embrace a reverential attentiveness where we're cultivating the ability to hear. And what do I mean by that? We have a faculty. This faculty is called hearing. Now, hearing does not necessarily come from the ears. Hearing comes from consciousness. Our consciousness produced ears. So the faculty existed before there was a physical expression of it. So what we're doing in spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment is we're coming back to real hearing. Now, as that begins to be developed, we're able to hear the guidance. And this guidance is perpetual. We're always being guided, but we don't always listen because we want what we want. So when we begin to listen, we begin to grow, we begin to come into flow, and then we're shocked and surprised as to how much good wants to happen through us. It's a great technology for cultivating deep and sincere listening.
Thank you for that. Ashley on Facebook is asking, what methods do you use to weave this into the current overstimulated and aggressive climate?
You're describing the climate quite well. It's aggressive, it's very stimulating. We experience more stimulation in a day than individuals 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago experienced in a year or years. And one day, with the multiple channels, the emails, the text, the social media, we have so much stimulation coming in. Our mobile phones are full of it. And so there has to be a moment in which we take a recess from the process. We have to put down our telephones, we have to put down social media for a while and actually develop a relationship with ourselves. And so for me, I don't go right into any social media or anything when I wake up in the morning. I get to myself. I meditate, I pray, I establish intention so that my intention is not being established by the world. My intention is being established by my own heart so that I move into the world with intentionality, and then I'm able to respond to the things that are coming at me rather than react to them. Most people are living as a reactionary. They're reacting to stimuli rather than responding to their soul. As you begin to respond to your soul, you become liberated, you become free. Most people are indentured servants in reacting to stimulation. That's indentured servitude. You don't want that. And they get caught up in a spiral of stimulation and reaction. And some people even go so far as to actually allow their moods to be altered by what's happening on social media. That is indentured servitude. We want to establish ourselves as sovereign, liberated spiritual beings. Intentional. And so, as you'll see in the class, meditation is very important. Intention is very important. Response is very important. And so this is how I begin my day, and this is how I end my day. And then throughout the course of the day, I come back to that.
Deirdre is asking, how do you move specifically from stage 2 to stage 3, or frequency 2 to 3, as we're talking about them in this course? And she says thank you. So she's really on board with your work, Michael.
Well, we don't skip stages. So stage 2, you cannot transcend anything you haven't mastered. So as you'll see in the class, we always want to master stage 2. And of course, the metaphysical movement has become very masterful at stage 2. Now, what begins to happen when you begin to really see that you live in a lawful universe, that things don't just happen, that things happen just according to our perception, our beliefs, things happen according to lessons we need to learn. Then there is a slow segue into stage 3, which the hallmark of stage 3 is surrender. but you're not surrendering to an external deity of a God that is capricious or changes on you. You're actually surrendering to the next stage of your own unfoldment. So when you ask, how do we do that? We have very specific practices of letting go to the next stage of our own unfolding. Nature provides good analogies of this. You know, you have a rose bush, and the rose bush, in its early development, develops strong roots, and then it develops a strong stalk and somewhat a kind of a branch-like existence. And once that is strong, it has the capacity now to hold a plethora of roses. It can surrender to a next stage of roses. So we develop strong roots in our belief system, strong roots in our understanding that life is for us and not against us. We develop strong roots that everything we want and hope for and desire is within us. And then we can release ourselves to the next stage of our own unfolding. That's surrender. And then, so the how-to is a letting go process. I let go and I let life has its way with us. However, we have culled from our mind the superstitious thought that God, life, love, intelligence would want anything for us other than our highest and best good, other than success, other than dynamic well-being, other than peace of mind. We've culled out the thought forms that would suggest anything otherwise. So now we can let go without inhibition, without fear. And so it's a process that then speeds up as we go along the way.
We are here with Michael Bernard Beckwith, and we're learning about his upcoming course, Life Visioning in Your 40s, 50s, and Beyond. The course begins Tuesday, May the 7th at noon Pacific, and you can see all the details about the course, and you can register at lifevisioning.com. Visit that URL for the details. So we have a little more questioning here coming about fear. There's a few of these coming in. How do I face fear, Maria is asking, that shows up when I'm about to grow? That fear that's often stuck in me since childhood and has nothing to do with the situation.
Absolutely. This is it's a good question. Now, what happens is we live in a certain paradigm, a certain way of thinking that has served us for a period of time, gave us a level of protection, a context for our life. We have the way we've coped, the way we've defended ourselves. So now you enter into wanting to grow and unfold. And the moment you do that, the egoic structure, which is uncomfortable with the unknown, it projects fear to keep you small. So you don't want to overcome fear. What you want to do is embrace it and take it with you. Fear is an energy. Everything is an energy. And so when you realize that fear is there, you notice it, you say, oh, there's fear, but I'm going to take the next step anyway. Now what happens? Then that energy called fear begins to be transmuted into a higher frequency. That higher frequency is called excitement. As you continue to walk in the direction of your dream, that excitement is transmuted into a higher frequency. That higher frequency is called enthusiasm. And so you move from fear to excitement to enthusiasm. But if you wait to overcome fear, you don't get to excitement and you don't get to enthusiasm. Many people make the mistake of saying, well, I'll take a step in the direction of my success once I get past my fear or once I overcome my fear. No, you acknowledge fear. You say, fear is here. I'm experiencing fear. So what? Everybody experiences fear. It's not a big deal. But you walk in the direction of your dream. Fear is transmuted to excitement, then it's transmuted into enthusiasm, and now you feel compelled into right action. You feel that life is on your side. You feel an energy that shifts from inertia to momentum. And then you discover that whenever you're about to make a breakthrough, there's the fear, It means that you're about to go to another level of understanding, another level of the depth of your being surfacing. It's a part of the process. You know the process now. You don't. It's not you don't make a federal case out of it. You keep on moving.
That's great. I love that perspective shift on fear, so thank you. Brad is asking a question that seems like a great follow-up here. Michael, I've been on the path for many years, and while I believe in the power of the mind, I also know that sitting around believing isn't enough. Where does taking action come into all of this?
This is a good question, and you're absolutely right. There's the power of the mind, and this is where life visioning comes in, because we go from power of the mind to mind becoming an instrument of awareness. And so you start off with a good belief system, and then there is a level of practice in which you gain insight and revelation. And what happens is, in the life visioning process, we actually ask the question, what is my next step? Where am I called to grow? And we, again, going back to reverential alertness, we listen, and we're listening for the next level of action. So belief is the beginning. Then there's two levels of beliefs. Well, there's actually three. There's unconscious beliefs that many people have, hidden beliefs that they don't even know they have, that sometimes blocks the flow. Then as you mature, you establish a belief system that's coherent with the fundamental laws of the universe. It is stated, it is done unto you as you believe. That's the level of you actually experience your belief. And so you establish a good belief system. And then belief takes you to practice. And then practice yields insight. So you don't stay with believing. With insight, you come to knowing. And with knowing, you ask the question, what is it that's mine to do? What's my next step? And it moves you to action. Now, here's the understanding. When you have an insight, you're compelled to act. If you just stay within believing, hoping, and wishful thinking, nothing's going to happen. But once you have a real insight, your actions change. And you can actually ask, as I do, what is my next step? Then you listen. And you start to get wisdom and guidance and direction in a language and in a way that you can understand. How do you know you're having a real insight? You're compelled to act. Your character changes, your priority changes, your conversations change. You start to shift who you are.
So Linda asks what to do when it's been years of desiring the most important two things in my life, and yet nothing's happening. She says, I've been patient, have prayed, sought out counseling, and still nothing happens. I wonder if God hears me and is ignoring me for whatever reason. I feel tired of waiting for the love partner and clients for my work, which I love.
I understand. First of all, the law is always responding to you. There's no presence of God that's not hearing and not listening. That's a superstitious thought. Generally, there's a couple of reasons. One, if there's something you've been working on for a long time and there's nothing yielding, sometimes there's an iceberg underneath the surface. There's an iceberg of unforgiveness that's hindering the flow of life. Sometimes that's an unconscious unforgiveness of the self, of ourselves. Sometimes it's an unforgiveness of someone, some circumstance, some situation, some individual that we're holding hostage. We're holding ourselves hostage to some event that took place in life. And so I've discovered that many times people are holding on to some level of unforgiveness, and it's hindering the flow of life. So we have to go in and say, is there someone I'm holding hostage? Am I holding myself hostage? And we discover that. We go into active forgiveness until there's a yielding, and then we discover that iceberg is released. You know that there's the tip of the iceberg, and then most of the iceberg is underwater. So oftentimes there's something there underwater that we have to deal with, or sometimes there's a hidden belief. The hidden belief could be that we don't feel worthy of what we're asking for, that there may be something wrong with us. There may be a holdover from an old-time, antiquated religiosity that would say that we're born in sin, or we're not good enough, lack of self-love, a degree of self-loathing. There may be an unconscious belief that we need to bring into awareness so that we can let it go finally and accept that we are worthy, that life wants us to win, and that we're okay with ourselves. So there's different permeations of energetics that can keep something at bay. Unforgiveness, hidden belief of self-loathing that we need to come face to face with, let it go, and finally accept that we're more than worthy, that the presence of God, if you understand that you are the point that the presence of God is looking for. You're the exclamation point of God. You're the reason for that God wants to know itself as your life. So there's no God like, oh, well, I don't want her to be happy. I don't want her to succeed. I'm not listening. There's no God like that. That's the God that we made up in our mind. You probably need to hear that how we think about God determines how we pray. And so we have to fire all the gods in us that would have a delay tactic in us, feel we're not worthy. We have to bring back the real God, the God that hears us always. And once we do that, we come into flow, into harmony with ourselves, and beyond our wildest imagining, good begins to flow. So I hope I'm assisting you in the answering of this question. And we'll go a little bit more into this in the class, but that's what I have for now.
Yeah, and in Module 2, Michael really touches into the forgiveness practice and even affirmations. Michael, do you want to share anything about that you do in regarding the forgiveness practice and affirmations in Module 2?
Well, in Module 2, we actually build the vibrational structure of freedom and acceptance. You talked about, someone was asking about believing, and I broke down the fact that you want your belief system to match the universal, the way the universe operates. And so with affirmations, proclamations, decrees, we're starting to develop a vibrational belief system. Then the underlying forgiveness processes set us free, so we're able to then leap vibrationally into the next expression of our life. This is all a very important part of our practice. And then you're able to see that these particular frequencies are not linear, and they're not like a stair step. One of the things I teach in the class is that in one area of your life, you might be in the frequency of feeling like a victim. In another area of your life, you might feel like you're a master. And so the idea is to bring that level of mastership to the other area of your life in which you feel victimized. And sometimes, and in many cases, forgiveness and establishing a different belief system really assist in that.
So Robin is asking, I'm very excited about the opportunity to learn more about your latest version of visioning, which I followed for many years and have thoroughly enjoyed. I already have a full daily practice. Can you give me an idea of how I would integrate the practices that you will be teaching so that I'm not overwhelmed and have to make a difficult choice in order to stay on track every day? I think she's talking about integrating what she's already doing with what you're bringing in.
Absolutely. Well, this is all in harmony and flow with what you're doing. We're not going to like inundate you with a bunch of stuff. There's what's happening here. Everything is nuanced. It's like as you've been practicing and learning over the years, you've discovered for yourself that the principles don't change, but there becomes a subtle nuance in your understanding of it, and that slight little bit of nuance opens up a door and a window that you couldn't see before. Excuse me. So it's not that you're putting a whole bunch of stuff on you. It's that you're coming to a greater understanding of what you're already doing. And with understanding, there's more power. There's more power that's released.
Take a moment, have a little sip of water. Thank you, Michael. Okay, I wanted to bring a question through from Heather. She shares, I'm in my early 60s. I love adventure and I'm basically happy, but I feel stuck on my own just trying to make ends meet when I know there's so much to experience and enjoy out there. How to get there?
Mm-hmm. Well, two things. One, adventure is a beautiful, beautiful word. So you want to wake up and put yourself on an adventure of manifestation. And in this adventure of manifestation, instead of saying, the good is out there, in this adventure of manifestation, you want to begin to feel that the good is in here, that there's a level of joy, a level of bliss, a level of abundance. You want to begin to feel that that's in operation right now, and that you're going to bring it into everywhere that you go, your conversation, your actions, so that you're not just making ends meet. You're actually beginning to feel and live in the feeling tone of abundance. So you would actually ask yourself today, as an example, if I had everything that I needed, what kind of thoughts would go through my mind? What kind of conversation would come out of my mouth? And what kind of action would I take today? And then you begin to hear those thoughts, begin to have those kind of conversations, and you begin to take those actions. I can remember just years ago, little tiny things that I would do, and this is obviously years ago, but I would do things like, if I had more than enough, what would I do? Well, I would always fill up my gas tank. And I began to always fill up my gas tank, even if funds were short, because that's what I would do if I had more than enough money. And so that became a feeling tone. It generated a feeling tone of more than enough, which then provided me living in a context of more than enough, which then provided more and more circulation to happen in my life. What would you do if you had more than enough in your life? How would you speak? What kind of conversations would you have? What kind of actions would you take? You begin to take baby steps that would create momentum in your life, and then you're starting to demonstrate greater prosperity, greater abundance. It's here for the receiving now. I declare that for you.
So we have some more questions. We'll be getting to those in just a moment. But before we do, I just want to go through a couple of details that you might be asking yourself about life visioning in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. This is really going to be an inspiring 5 weeks with Michael, as you can probably tell, as you begin to embody the gift that are destined to be emerging through you. This 5-week course will take place on Tuesdays at noon Pacific, and this starts May the 7th. Now, if for any reason you're unable to join us, don't worry, you're not going to miss the teachings. You'll receive audio and video replays, transcripts of all the courses, handouts as well, and that will all be present for you on the course homepage, which is your virtual classroom that you'll have access to for the entire course and for a full year after the course ends. So we offer also a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses. That gives you time to try the course out for a full 2 weeks. That's until May the 21st in this case, and gives you a chance. We want to make sure you absolutely love it. And as an added option, we invite all participants to join a private course Facebook group where you'll stay connected to one another and be supported by some of Michael's ministerial students. So there's so much value in this course. Now, everyone who registers receives the Life Visioning Bonus Collection, and that includes Awaken Your Divine Potential and Uncover Your True Abundant Identity. This is an audio training by Dr. Sue Morter and Michael Beckwith. The second one is Your Soul's Evolution. This is a guided audio meditation by Michael. And the third one is a practice harmonizing prosperity from true abundance. This is also a guided meditation by Michael. And for those of you who know you're ready to step in and register by midnight Pacific, April the 27th, you will receive this special bonus. This is really fun. Michael created an album. Some of you may not know this. It's called Transcendence by Michael Bernard Beckwith. And it's really a combination of his teachings. They're originally Sunday talks that have been blended to music, a variety of driving, fun dance music and soft, peaceful meditation music, variety. And this is really beautiful. I love this music. And you get this if you register or purchase this course by midnight, April the 27th. So I just want to go over to one of these questions that Romola is asking. Is this course for someone if they've just started visualization? Do they need to be adept at visualization? Can you speak a little bit, Michael, to those that are wondering just who this course is for? New people, people that have been on the path a long time.
Absolutely. The course is for beginners and veterans alike. We do not skip the frequency of manifestation. So if you're just beginning and wanting to learn about visualization, the creative use of your imagination, we do cover that in the second frequency of how to do that, and then segue from there into life visioning. So it's not going to block your growth and unfoldment by coming into this particular class. It's going to enhance it. It's going to give you the understanding. It's going to give you a broader understanding as to where your visualization and your creative use of your imagination falls. So it's not going to inundate you with too much. It's going to be what is called just right.
Angelica is asking, she says that she believes deeply in the principles of New Thought and she practices daily meditation and visioning. But she mentions that her husband is not at all on the spiritual path. I know that there are other people listening that have a similar situation where someone in their life, they don't feel like they're in alignment with their same beliefs. Just wondering how to keep those conditioned thoughts of someone else from impacting her. What can you say about that?
Well, this is a pretty normal and typical situation where either friends or family members haven't yet made the kind of commitment that you have. And so you draw a circle big enough to keep them in, obviously, your life and your heart, but you're not training yourself to them. You're training yourself to excellence. You're training yourself to your own unfoldment. So you don't stop growing and glowing because someone is not walking on your path. You hold them in prayer. You create a big circle vibrationally so that they fit in it, and you live your best life. And what has a tendency to happen is as you start to glow, as you start to shine, as you start to grow, there's generally a tendency of the people close to you to ask you, what are you doing? What's going on? Why are you happy during a time of intensity? And then once that question is asked, then that means receptivity is there, and you can begin to share. You know, I'm practicing life visioning. I'm practicing affirmative prayer. I'm studying. I'm listening to Agape online, whatever the case may be. But oftentimes what people do is they train themselves for other people, and they'll stay within a narrow paradigm, which again eventually causes a level of pollution, crisis, and so in this way you're acknowledging that people may not be ready to grow with you. You don't judge them. You don't put them down. You don't feel superior. You don't feel better than they are. You walk your path. You let your light so shine that when they see your joy and your happiness, they want to know what's going on, and then you get to share with them. And this is pretty standard in relationships, family dynamics, where one person takes the lead in this. You just don't get egocentric about it. You maintain your humility. You don't judge people. You don't put them down. You don't become impatient with them. You just love and keep on stepping.
Like you said, that one's basic, but it's always good to hear that one again, Michael. So thank you. I'm going to go over to Benita over on Facebook. She says, I use visualization throughout the day, and I heard you speak of visioning, and I can't seem to make it stick. I just feel the heaviness of the world and fearful of where I live. Is there a mantra or something that you use daily or you can share to bring me back?
Okay, there's like two questions in there. One, you do visualization every day, and that's good. There's always a place for visualization where you're seeing a beautiful and wonderful outcome for the day or for the week or for whatever the case may be. Visioning is different. Visioning is a meditative, transformational technology in which you're opening yourself up to what's been planted within you as your destiny. And you're asking that question, so throughout the course of the day, you're getting led and guided in the course of what's been planted within you, not by society, not by hereditary patterns, not by your parents, but by you. So as you get into the vision state, you're living in a state of guidance. Now, in the way that you're talking about, you're afraid of your environment or you're nervous about what's going on in life. You want to sit and you want to feel the vibration and the frequency of safety. You want to maybe think about a moment in your life where you actually felt safe and secure. It has a feeling to it. So you sit in that feeling, and that feeling is not based on an external condition, a locked door or a fence around your house or security. That feeling is coming from within you. So you sit within that feeling, you take some breaths, you magnify that feeling of safety. And then when you go into the world, you're going into your environment, you're going into your environment with the feeling of safety. Now, after a while, that feeling tone becomes amplified. And then you're walking feeling safe and secure. The other thing that it gives you a kind of an inner guidance system. You start to become sensitive that if you need to be wary of a certain situation or your intuition starts to quicken, maybe I should go left instead of right. Maybe I shouldn't do this today. Maybe, you start to be guided in many ways to keep you safe. And then as time goes on, that becomes your law. Your personal law is you're safe. And things occur. I remember a few years ago, I was riding with another minister. We just left an ordination, and I just got a new car. And we were at a stop sign, and when I pressed, after we looked both ways, I pressed the accelerator, and the car died. It just stopped running. It's a brand new car. And I looked at the lady and said, wow, it's a brand new car. The car just died. And this was all happening very quickly. And within a couple of seconds, this big truck barreled through the stop sign in front of us. It would have hit us, it would have crushed us. But the car died, so I could not press the accelerator. So my feeling tone of safety, provided the context for that to happen. You see, I was protected. And I could go through countless times where things similar to that happened to me or people around me. Matter of fact, there's a story of Joel Goldsmith, a client of Joel Goldsmith, in which Joel prayed for him. The guy would had a lot of money in his business, and he would take the money to the safety deposit box. And one day he was taking the money to the safety deposit box, and he had a strange feeling. So he went back to his office, and he sat for a moment, and he came into the feeling tone of safety. And then he went and made the deposit, the bank deposit, the drop. A few years later, the man is a spiritual practitioner, and he's counseling a young man. And the man made a confession. The man said, a few years ago, I was not who I am today, and I saw you making a bank deposit, and me and my friends were about to rob you. But for some reason, you went back into the room, back into the building, and when you came out, you had all these people surrounding you. And we left you alone. Now, in reality, The man didn't have anybody surrounding him. All he had was a cloak of prayer and a feeling of safety. But the would-be robbers saw him surrounded by these other men, you see. And of course, he made the bank deposit without a hitch. So once you develop this awareness that you are safe and it's real, you're protected in many ways, and sometimes you don't even know that you're being protected. But you walk with an air of security. This is what begins to happen when you do this kind of work.
And as there's questions on from many people around other challenges, abundance or relationships, it sounds like you can apply that same principle to all of those. Yes, Michael?
Yeah, there's one universal principle that's then applied to every area of your life. You know, when you deal with relationships, first of all, your primary relationship is an at-one-ment with the presence, the presence of your very life and being. You can call it the presence of God, the presence of life. And you learn to treat yourself the way you want to be treated. And then you learn that you can't get love or peace or kindness from your relationships. You give that to yourself first, and you bring that to relationships. Now, the bane of relationships are people trying to get something that they can only give to themselves. And so they think people are breaking their heart, but people are only breaking their expectations, you see. And so that's a whole dynamic. Prosperity, same thing. You develop a feeling tone of abundance, and then you're guided to do what's necessary to demonstrate abundance. Same thing with health. Now we're talking about the different structures of our life. In the course, I go through the different 8 structures of your life, you see, and it has to do with livelihood, it has to do with finance, has to do with body temple, has to do with relationships, has to do with community. You know, it has to do with all the ways, body temple, health, all the ways in which we live. And these principles allow us to stabilize these different structures of our life so that we become capable of holding more energy. Think of it like this. You may have a light bulb, and the light bulb, say it's a 90-watt light bulb. Now, if you try to put 120 watts through the 90-watt light bulb, it'll start to sputter. It'll create a level of dissonance. So if you think of ourselves as spiritual light bulbs, what we're doing is increasing the capacity to hold more wattage, because life is infinite. And life wants to flow through you, but it's only going to flow through you based on the amount of wattage that you have activated. So these spiritual practices allow you to expand your wattage. So it's not like, oh, I'm waiting for God to give me this blessing. It's more like I'm expanding my wattage, my capacity to have more wattage. My nervous system is becoming recalibrated to a higher frequency. More life flows through me. Now, life is always trying to flow through us. But now I can sustain the frequency. I can have more wattage. Whew. And then demonstrations begin to flow. It's powerful.
Thanks so much, Michael. We've had a few questions that are just like this. What's your best practice for getting into this high vibrational state? How do I align myself in that receiving mode to receive and raise my own vibration? So you've talked about meditation. Something specific you can share with us today on how to bring our vibration up?
Well, I go into meditation, and one of the first things I do is I do a pranayama exercise. It's a breath exercise in which you can basically, to release the psychic debris that's around you. You may pick it up from this being in the world. It's kind of a malaise of psychic debris. But you can begin to eradicate that with just a rapid breath. I'll show you. You're breathing in through the nose and sometimes out through the mouth, or in through the nose and out through the nose. You imagine the breath is hitting the back of your throat. You push it out. So you would just go 40 times. What happens is the debris is gone. Now you sit in meditation. And perhaps you say, I'm available to more good than I've ever imagined. And then you sit in the quietude of that proclamation. So now you've cleared out debris, you've raised your frequency with breath, you've established intention, and you're sitting in it. You do that every day. And you'll develop a prayer practice, a meditation practice, that will allow you to stay clean and receptive and available. That's one way. It's a very powerful way.
That's beautiful. I'm available to more good than I've ever imagined. Thank you so much for that, Michael. So I'd love to hear what you're looking so forward to sharing with the students that decide to take this journey with you, Michael.
Well, we're going to go through the, obviously, a great overview in the first week so that people have an understanding of where we are and where we're going. And then we're going to start to cover every single frequency. Again, a little nuanced. So we're going to, not only the frequency, but we're going to cover and have practices within those frequencies to clear ourselves up and to go to the next level. So that ultimately, we actually are able to articulate a vision, not just something we make up, but something we catch from our soul, and then learn to live in a visioning state. What does that mean? That means oftentimes people think that when you do the vision process, you sit formally, you do the process, you catch what you can catch, and you go on in your life. No, that's just part of it. Visioning state is happening even when you're not formally practicing, you're available so that even in a moment when you're not practicing, you're catching insights and revelations. Something dawns upon your awareness. Your intuition talks to you. I want more and more people to live at that level so that you're driving your car, you're having breakfast, you're taking a shower. Suddenly, the work that you've put in through life visioning, in a moment that you consciously think not, an answer comes, direction comes, wisdom comes, a little nudge comes. So that you're actually living in a visioning state for a large part of your life. And this is not just for adepts. It's not for people who consider themselves veterans, who have been meditating for years. This is for everyone. And this is the time to do it for two reasons. One, the vibration of the planet has never been higher than it is now. I'm talking about the planet, and I'm talking about the amount of people that are in meditation on the planet have created a field that's making it easier for enlightenment. And then two, we're in the middle of a great shift of paradigm. The old is dying and the new is being born, which is why there's so much calamity happening now. And so this is a great time to go into the making yourself consciously available to the next step of your unfoldment. This is a great time. So I'm overjoyed and enthusiastic about you coming into this teaching, hearing maybe something you've even heard before, but hearing it for the first time, and then hearing new stuff as well.
Thank you so much, Michael. This has just been such a great hour, and to be in your presence and to really catch the perspective that you use and to share that with us today, it's been really powerful. So deep gratitude to you for that. I want to thank everyone for being here, those of you that joined us live on Facebook, those of you that posted questions in ahead of time, and also to those of you that are listening after the effect. We are so glad that you're able to join us. So Life Visioning will start Tuesday, May the 7th. We hope you'll be with us for Life Visioning in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. And if you'd like to register, you want to learn more about the course, please go to lifevisioning.com. We have Transcendence as a bonus. If you'd like to register, do so before midnight, April the 27th, to receive that wonderful bonus of Michael speaking and sharing his teachings to music. Michael, do you have any final words before we say farewell to our listeners today?
I want them to know that just like we're having a Q&A right now, that we have a Q&A after every module that's being taught as well. And so as I'm teaching, and then if you have questions, not quite clear on what I'm saying, we're going to have this kind of moment where I'm live with you. So you can say, Michael, when you said A, what did you really mean by that? Or can you give me a little bit more? I'm having a difficult time understanding what you're saying. So be aware, we're not just leaving you out there, that I'm actually going to walk you through this, and there'll be a Q&A along the way every week. So I think that's very important.
Yes, absolutely important, and to be in a weekly support as we walk through these modules and have Michael's support and guidance along the way, which is a unique blessing for all of us. Thanks, Michael. Thank everyone. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us today. And on behalf of all of us here at the Shift Network, we wish you well. I'm looking so forward to this course, and I hope you'll join us on it. Thanks.